Welcome to the Gigless Podcast, a podcast showcasing the works and talents of those who lost their gigs due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This podcast will feature a range of creatives from the tri-state area who are young visionaries and who contribute to their craft despite the recent events that have happened. Join us today as our host Remi Leibovic speaks with Hunter Smith, a prominent and up-and-coming theater production manager. Hunter Smith studied theater production at Rutgers University Camden and has provided his services at the Woodstock Playhouse and as the development apprentice at Walnut Street Theater. You can find his impressive resume and his work on his website listed in the show notes of this episode. Enjoy.
Hi, welcome back to Gigless. Today we are here with Hunter Smith. He is a fellow Rutgers Camden alumni, and he is also an apprentice at the Walnut Street Theater. So I'll just let you talk about yourself now.
Of course. Yeah, so thank you for the introduction. So I am Hunter Smith. I just graduated from Rutgers in December, which is around the time I started working at the Walnut Street Theater. I'm what is called the development apprentice. So basically I work in the development office with 4 other people and my manager. And I do grant writing, or I help with grant writing. I help with speaking to donors, planning our gala event, or any kind of fundraising that's done through the theater goes through our office. And I also, at side gigs and stuff like that, work at the Opera Philadelphia in their costume shop, doing buying clothes, selling, or returning clothes, helping with measurements, helping with building stuff, organization. And I also worked at Rutgers Camden, which in their theater department, where I, help with the shows, painting, building sets, and I was their prop master for the past 2 shows. So yeah, that's basically, what's been going on since graduating in December.
Yeah, so what got you into theater?
Well, I started theater in 5th grade because my friends were doing it, and they were all performers and stuff, and I was, until 8th grade, I kind of switched to, behind the scenes, and I did it all through high school, and I, wasn't planning on doing it in college because, everyone was like, you don't make money in the arts, and ha-ha-ha, now turns out those people are kind of right at this moment in time, but, then I switched from psychology in college to doing theater, and I've been here ever since.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, again, those same people that are complaining are also the ones that are complaining that all the late-night TV shows are also canceled.
Yep, their football and their, everything else is...
all the entertainment.
Yep, exactly.
So again, for those of you who are listening in, Hunter is South Jersey, Philadelphia based. And Can you tell us about where how did this start? Bring us up to the last few weeks. And for those of you listening, I also wanted to let you guys know, because I know that a lot of you guys are listening in from the North Jersey, New York City area. The rest of the country got put in these mandates for self-quarantine about a week after we did, or a few weeks after we did. So the threat wasn't as evident to people in those other regions as it is now. So just context for anybody who is listening in. So continue.
Yeah. So and it's interesting too, because I have friends who are in New York and doing that whole the Broadway scene, off Broadway, blah blah blah. And it's really interesting for us because I was seeing them impacted way before we were impacted. In I was telling you this, I didn't feel anything. Nothing was really wrong until basically 2 Fridays ago. It was so literally less than 2 weeks ago, I was working all my jobs still. I was, we were planning for, to still go on. Rutgers is doing a show, Anything Goes. Unfortunately, they're doing Anything Goes, but, I was working the props master for them, and it was still they decided Rutgers didn't know what was going on before, like, all the colleges shut down and everything. And so, like, then last Monday, we basically, like, I went to work. It was a normal Monday, and that was Monday the 16th, I believe.
The 16th of March?
It was all of this month, yeah.
Yes.
March. And, yeah, we went in, it was a normal day, and then by 2 o'clock, I found out that I was one of the only apprentices left to have their job. So it was kind of, like, really, like, fast. Like, they basically had made the decision on Sunday, and my boss went in for a 2 o'clock meeting with, like, the upper heads, and came in and was basically like, our office is the only one not being impacted, and blah, 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 blah. Everyone else, like, and then we had to say bye to all the other apprentices, because, like, and you have to realize, like, with this, it's like, some of these people are based in Philadelphia solely for their apprenticeship. So, like, I know a couple of them, like, have an apartment, and were only here for, the 9 months or the year or whatever their lease was. And now the thing that was keeping them here and keeping them able to afford this, they lost within a day. So it was really, like, a sad thing. And, they had made a life here for the past 9 months, and then got the boot. So that was a really hard experience. And then, this Monday, 2 days ago, I got a call from my boss, who was basically like, hey, we don't know, if we're going to be able to come back. So basically I got laid off too. So, and this was after, like, Rutgers had already made their decision that, like, basically when Rutgers shut down 3 weeks ago or whatever, they had decided that Anything Goes was going to be canceled. So that, and, like, all of the shows for this month of March and April were canceled. So we, and now it's up until canceled, which those events, people don't realize, but, like, I was working the lights for that. I was working, I was helping build the sets. I was helping do the shows. And that's, like, I get paid hourly to help do the sets and painting and stuff like that. And then I get paid a stipend to do, like, props and stuff, like, as a props designer. So, but all of that I lost within a matter of 2 days, and then I was like, okay, well, I'm still working. And the Walnut was very nice with me, where they paid me for last week, and they're paying me for this week and then next week, and then I'm, like, done basically at the Walnut. And the boss was really, like, he's super chill, he's a great guy, and he was like, well, when we find out, like, when we can get you back, you'll be back in, but, like, we don't know when that is.
Yes, and for context, this Monday that he was talking about is Monday, March 23rd, 2020.
Yeah. So within a matter of 2 weeks, I had, 4 or 5 jobs operating. Like, I found out the opera might be canceled for their Opera 2020, which is, like, September, it's that season. And, like, it basically, they spend the whole summer with, hundreds of people, like, stitchers, like, just in my office, or, like, where I work at the opera, like, the costume shop, like, they have, like, dozens of stitchers, of people going shopping, of people running the shows and stuff, who are no longer doing that, and they rely on that kind of work. So
yeah, it's definitely hit the arts in a way that we were not, that the arts was never really structured to take. I think it's hit a lot of American businesses, and a lot of American, just these things that we took for granted in society are being reformatted and reshaped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like, theater, like, seeing it, and, like, I follow the Kimmel Center's Instagram, which is a big performing arts space in Philly. It does, like, a lot of the Broadway touring, and they're doing, like, artists singing from home just to get them a little bit of exposure and money. But, like, if they're not, like, all the shows, everything, like, concerts, and I mean, BB&T Center in Camden, they're still operating as if they're having all these performers come, but they don't know if they're going to be able to do that. So it's a lot of people who use that as summer work, like extra money, aren't getting to do that. So, I hate to be negative about it, because I think I've been generally staying positive, and, but it's crazy. It's a lot going on and impactful.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's sad, and it was a lot of goodbyes. And the thing of it is it happened so quickly. Like, our theater, you know, we were still planning on being open. Well, one, we were planning on, we didn't close down the theater or close the shows until Sunday, March 15th, which was 2 Sundays ago. And then, you know, we were still planning on having the opening of our new show, The Best Man. That was supposed to be the 18th. I was supposed to see a show on the 19th at the Lantern Theater Company, and within a matter of 2 days, both of those were closed and shut down. And, you know, and I was like, with the Walnut, I was planning on coming back on this Friday, the 27th, this upcoming Friday, the 27th. But now, you know, now that I've been laid off, I don't know whenever it'll be open again.
Yeah, I think that they definitely will reopen once this whole thing is passed, and especially when we have some kind of way to flatten our curve or stop travel, or just whatever they're going to do when they have a control of this is when they're going to, I feel like after a month of having control, they're going to reopen everything and everybody's going to get back their gigs. But, you know, in a lighter thing, you know, how have you coped with this? I mean, I know that it's so fresh, but how have you coped with this mentally and emotionally?
Yeah, it's been really weird just because it like, I feel like it hasn't sunk in, kind of. You know, I'm still very part of the Rutgers community, and seeing them where they're like just starting back classes this week because like they had spring break. And they're doing online classes. So, like, I don't know. I've just been trying to read. I've been bike riding. So I normally live in Camden, New Jersey, and just commute to Philly across the Ben Franklin Bridge. But I came home to my family in Medford, New Jersey, and it's like the suburbs area. So there's a lot of like trees and woods, and there's not a lot of like things to do around here. But also, like, because I'm staying in, there's not, you know. I've just been trying to like plan for the future. Like, I had a job interview last week for this thing in Arizona. I've been applying to different things, but right now not a lot of theaters are posting anything because they don't know when they're going to be able to open back up. You know, I was listening to a podcast this morning that was saying people don't know if it's going to be till May or October or December, and that's like really hard to plan around with, you know, not only schools, but with theaters who need to like rent out their spaces or who do summer camps and where a bunch of kids are all together in one room, and, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely a concern, especially with large gatherings because of one, like, I don't know if a lot of people have seen this so far, but there's this illustration of all these matches on fire, and then because they're all next to each other, and then one of the matches is farther away and doesn't catch fire, and it stops the rest of the row of matches from catching fire. And that whole, I'll put that in the show notes as well. That whole illustration is how people are explaining flattening the curve. So that's good that you have an animal in the house, because a lot of people are actually saying that that's what's helping them with their stress levels, is having a pet or having something or being with people. At least if you're living at home and you're with family, like you're interacting with people, whereas if you're living by yourself, I can imagine it's a whole other experience.
Well, that's what so like I said, I have an apartment in Camden, and like my roommate right now, he, just because Pennsylvania's in the whole lockdown kind of thing, and he's from Lancaster, so he like was not planning on going home, and now he doesn't have that option because everything, like all the travel and stuff, like he takes trains, and his family isn't going to drive to come get him and stuff because they're busy working, all that fun stuff. So he's like by himself right now with no pet. We don't have, you know, I would go crazy if I, you know, didn't have my family here. And it, you know, I hate to like, because it's a very serious thing, but like I've been luckily, like it feels more just like it's a pause and everything, and I'm sitting, you know, I'm taking time to reflect at home and watching TV a lot, and it's almost like a little bit of a spring break for me, but, you know.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know Hunter, he's definitely one of the most hardest working people I've ever met in the arts. I'm serious, you encounter a lot of people when you're in the arts or when you go for an art major that are, everybody goes through being, lost or not knowing what they want to do. For sure, that happens to everybody. But then there are those people that they do feel lost, they do feel like they don't know what they want to do, but they're trying, and they go. And Hunter, you've always had this amazing thing where you've just, you volunteered, you signed yourself up, you went out there. For more context, Hunter also, from episode 2 with Reet, Hunter was also on that Ireland trip and was part of the digital studies department for a little bit as well.
Yeah. I mean, like, that's part of my whole thing is, like, I love work and I love what I do. I love being in the arts and I love being in theater. And it's, like, that's, like, the hardest thing for me right now, where I just feel like, my whole life, like, not to sound sad, but, like, not sad, but, like, my whole life is, my work and what I do and the people that I work with and stuff like that. And it's been really hard not getting to see people every day and getting to, like, hang out. And like after this, I have a phone call with one of my friends who also works in theater and stuff like that, and we're just going to chat about it. But it's just like, it's been really, it feels like, not like, and not to be dramatic or whatever, because it's everyone's going through something, but it's like almost a lost feeling where it's like, I don't have anything to do today. I don't know, I've had, for the past 4 years of being in college and doing summer jobs and stuff like that, I've always had what's next, what's going on. But, like, until this clears up, I don't know what the what next is. There's only hope that something, my girlfriend is an actress, and she, she got a role in a summer thing where she's doing a summer apprenticeship.
Shout out to Brittany.
Yeah, shout out to Brittany. Where she just got this thing, but she doesn't know, like, I'm working on another show with her director of that, and the director is basically like, I don't know if this is going to happen, and that's not supposed to take place until June, but, like, they're like, the thing that keeps these companies afloat are their shows and, donations and stuff, but people aren't donating right now, and people aren't coming to see the shows. So they're like, we don't know if this is going to happen or not.
And I just wanted to backtrack for a minute. You don't have to apologize for feeling this way. Your feelings are completely 100% valid. And, we all have those moments, especially as people who are dependent on the arts, that are feeling this way. I was one of the people that I interviewed yesterday. She was just like, yeah, I just cried for a very long period of time because she lost her gigs. But, it definitely is it's a valid thing. It's a natural human response. And I think that the American society right now is adapting to slowing down, which in capitalism just never, there can't be any slowdown of production. And especially for people who are working artists, who are working musicians, who are working performers. And for you are a working theater person,
I mean, this is like, this is how I afford my life in my apartment, and, like, all of these side gigs were, making it so when, like, I start paying student loans and I have insurance and stuff like that, it's just like, I don't know what's going to happen with that, where I want to be, financially secure and, like, work. I want to be working, and, like, I don't know when the next time that will be.
Are you doing any other types of creative exercises? Are you trying to express yourself in a different way other than theater? Like you said that you paint sets and that you go into design a little bit. Is there anything that you're kind of doing?
I mean, like, right now, I haven't been doing much. I love, like, physical labor and stuff like that, so I've been working in the yard a lot and, like, helping clean up. Like, landscaping is its own art form sometimes. I like, sometimes I'll write, and I've been, reading and stuff like that, but it just with my kind of art, with the performing arts and stuff like that, it's very much a social activity, and until I actually have been reading some plays and stuff like that, kind of keeping my mind off of it. And, trying to catch up because there's a lot that I've been wanting to read and wanting to learn and stuff like that. So not really expressing my art, but getting more of backtracking and
inspired.
I've been needing to read and learn and do and stuff.
So what's inspiring you?
What?
What's inspiring you from what you're reading?
Well, right now I'm reading the Oedipus series, something that I should have done in school a long time ago, and I've been assigned it many times, but I never actually read, and I would just watch or read the Spark Notes and stuff. But I think,
Insert John Mulaney.
yeah. I don't know. Right now, what's inspiring more is the people around me and the scene on social media is how many people are actually social distancing and trying to get it's very much it's an interesting time in our world where everyone's doing this, everyone's self-quarantining and stuff like that. So I think staying at home is what's going on outside of what's going on in these books and stuff like that. It's interesting. It's cool.
That's good. And so you're trying to get more into, the literature and the classic part of theater, at least reading wise. Can you explain to our listeners what that is? It the Oedipus, did you say? I'm sorry if I mispronounced it.
No, Oedipus, yeah.
What's it about? I'm not a theater person like that, so I've never read that.
Okay. So Oedipus is basically it's an Athenian tragedy by Sophocles. I can pronounce it's ancient Greek kind of stuff.
Sophocles or Socrates?
Sophocles.
Sophocles. Sophocles.
Sauce,
please.
Sophocles. He was have you ever heard of the Oedipus complex?
No, but could you just explain it?
Basically, it's a tragedy. It's 3 different plays about Oedipus, who basically accidentally kills his dad and marries his mom, and then the children, and it's they're all 3 tragedies based off of it's the Antigone plays in it, and yeah, I don't know. It's a classical text, so I would not recommend reading it, but there's some good fun YouTube videos on it and stuff it's hard to get through, kind of. I mean, it's fun. I love Greek kind of plays and stuff like that, and the whole mythology behind it.
Is there anything that you would recommend to people who cannot go see a play right now?
Well, you know what a lot of people are doing that I think is really interesting is on online. A lot of people right now are taking this opportunity to better their videos and better for performing artists and stuff. And what I've noticed is a lot of them are doing solo performances. So if you had a monologue that you've done or something like that, people are filming that and putting it a lot on Facebook, or they're just getting audition material ready, and a lot of Broadway stars are doing it too. So if you can't go see a play, I recommend supporting the artists by watching their solo performance. I watched something last night where it was just on in the background of me playing a video game, but I was watching or listening to someone do a monologue from some Shakespeare. I think it was Othello. Yeah, it was Othello. They were doing just basically reading Othello and performing it for people to watch, and I think doing that kind of stuff and watching that and showing support of people who really it's hard to be in the arts right now, and doing that kind of activities or just watching them and giving them a like, and a lot of them are doing Patreons, and there's other GoFundMe's too, where it's the Emergency Philadelphia Artists Fund and stuff like that, where people can apply and they'll give people money with who are in the performing arts. I know people whose shows got canceled way before our shows, where and they're doing performances of their monologues from that show and filming it, so people don't get to to see the whole show, but they get to see like parts of it and snippets and stuff. So, I just recommend, there's a lot of cool stuff, like as bad as this is right now, and as much as it canceled everything for the performing arts, there's still some good stuff coming out of it, where it's like, maybe you weren't going to get to see this show at, this performing arts space, but like now you're getting to see it online, and I think that's important, is showing your support in that kind of way.
So yes, actors and performers are definitely working with limited resources. Yeah. How do you think, and you said video editing, I know that you have those skills. Yeah. How do you think that you're going to use them? Are you going to express your own creativity with that style? I mean, this podcast is like my project right now, and I am working with limited resources because we did try Zoom for this episode, but it was terrible. So right now, Hunter's on my phone, and I have my little recording device like right next to it.
Simple, we work with what we got here.
Exactly. So.
Yeah, I mean, like, I've been taking this as a time to, like, really update my resume and update, like, my website. I have a website, rjhuntersmith.wordpress.com, if anyone wants to, shameless plug. But, like, no, I've been keeping, I keep, like, records of shows that I've done before, and I edit videos every once in a while when I do, like, how you probably talked about this the other day with Reed, or episode 2, whatever you said, where we did the video editing for Ireland, and I've kind of stuck with that, where I do it a lot of like traveling videos. And
shout out Bobby.
Yeah, shout out Bobby. So like I do kind of edit with that kind of material. I'm limited with my editing. I only have iMovie on my phone, and that's generally it. So, like, because when I would edit videos, I would normally use the school's computers, but with all of those being shut down and everything like that, that's not going to happen for a while.
Yeah, that's another thing that we need to consider, is how are art students going to be able to continue their semester, especially if all of those high-powered computers that could handle all of that stuff, they're all on campus.
The animation lab, Brittany, so, for context, and, like, I don't know if you would want to talk to her about this later, but, like, with my girlfriend, Brittany, she basically had all the credit. She could have graduated in December with me, but this semester, like the spring semester, they were offering a stage combat class, and basically at the end of the semester, you get certified to, like, either choreographed fight combat, or you just get a certification. But with Brittany, she like basically signed up for a whole nother semester of school where she's paying for this. Basically, like, she was Hamlet and Hamlet, and then she's doing one online class, and then she's doing the fight combat, and then a dance class, like a jazz dance class. But now, like, she can't do that. And now, like, she spoke with the fight choreographer who was teaching her, and he was basically like, yeah, now you can't get certified, or, like, you're going to have to take classes elsewhere. Like, he'll count some of what they did in class as, like, hours for it, but she still needs to go and pay more money. And that was the whole reason she stayed at Rutgers, is to get her fight certification and to be Hamlet in the Hamlet show. But it's now, she was telling me today, like, she has a dance class today, and her computer is a 5 or 6 year old computer that doesn't like to connect to the internet, and when they're doing like a live video or a live stream, she can't connect. And with all those computer labs being locked and shut down, she can't even get into the computer lab to use a better computer.
Yeah, but I just feel that at the same time, those places are plagued with contamination and bacteria, as they are.
No. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm glad they shut down. It's just so,
it's unfair.
It's so sudden, and it's upsetting too for her, because it's like, that was the whole reason she's paying for another semester at Rutgers, is so she can, get certified in fight and have that on her resume. And now she's going to have to pay more money to go outside of school and do that. I mean, also for me too, like one of the reasons I stayed in the area, like, because I was offered like Royal Caribbean, like to work with them as like one of their, like a stagehand for their shows, and which, you know, now I'm really glad I didn't accept doing that, because I would have.
Yeah, Royal Caribbean's a cruise line to people who don't know.
Yeah, sorry. So like I was offered a job there, but I wanted to stay, kind of just get myself organized, and when I was offered this job at Walnut and stuff, I was more of like, okay, this seems like a better fit for me right now, just finishing school, and like just I'm saving up money and whatever. But like, yeah, one of the reasons I stayed behind too was for graduation at Rutgers, for like commencement, and now that's being canceled because, you know, I still wanted to walk, and I wanted to give my family the ability to come see me do that. And you know, and you know, I'm not being like, oh, boo-hoo me. This is because everyone's being affected. I mean, my heart goes out to like seniors of college who like had to say goodbye to their friends of 4 years in a matter of 2 days.
I heard specifically at Rutgers Camden, at least, that it was like you're getting out. It was not even like an email. It was just like a poster on the wall. But I could be wrong again.
No. It was basically posted on the wall, and that was it. Like there was no email sent out until later, but like it was basically like the campus was shutting down on, I think it was a Thursday, and everyone, no, it was a Tuesday, and then everyone had to be out by like 5 o'clock on Thursday.
Exactly.
Like
and how did Rutgers, because we're only talking about Rutgers because this is one of his professional jobs and professional gigs. How did Rutgers come to that decision for the play for you guys?
Well, it was like really, it was kind of weird at first, because like I think it was like 3 weeks ago, I was on the phone with the production manager being like, hey, like, what's going on? Because like, you know, I only found out Rutgers was closed because Brittany's an RA, so she, like, the minute it was announced, she had to go and do her like housing stuff, and but like I called the production manager and I was like, oh, you know, like, what's going on? Like, and he was like, look, I have no clue. They didn't tell any, like, it was basically the higher ups, like, didn't know anything, because so for those who don't know, Rutgers is connected by like New Brunswick being like the head school, and it was the president of Rutgers who made the announcement and basically sent out the email, but didn't tell any of the deans, didn't tell, you know, like what was going on. So it was basically like the head school was like, okay, we're shutting down, and that means all the other schools have to shut down with it. But like, you know, they didn't have a game plan in action, and there was like basically like I got this email when I was at work at the Walnut being like, from the stage manager of Anything Goes, being like, so nothing has been set in stone yet. We will talk about it today at rehearsal. Right now we're still doing, you know, the next 2 days of rehearsal, and then we'll figure out what's going on with the show. And like I was like, I texted the stage manager, who's one of my good friends, and I said, what does this mean? What's going on? And she was like, I'll tell you later, because she thought I got the email, but I didn't get an email saying like Rutgers was closing or anything like that. And I found out from one of the professors at Rutgers who was in a show at the Walnut. I ran into him, and he was like, whoa, it's crazy what's going on at Rutgers. And I was like, yeah.
This is Rutgers Camden, for context as well.
Camden, and basically right across the bridge from Philly. And I was like, what do you mean, what's going on at Rutgers? And he was like, yeah, everything's shutting down for the next couple weeks, and you have to do online classes. And originally they were just doing like basically 2 weeks of online classes, but then they switched to the full rest of the year is online because they didn't know when it was coming back. And basically every event is closed until May, like the end of May. I don't know the exact date. It might be June 1st or something like that is when everything's closed till. But so it was just like very all of a sudden all of my work at Rutgers was just like that.
And I want to give some context to our listeners who don't know theater majors, but the biggest thing, Hunter's he's only about one semester postgraduate. A lot of theater majors, when they, you know, prove themselves through their academic years, they often go back, and one of the gigs that you get coming out of school is working for the institution that you went to. So when we talk about Rutgers Camden in this podcast, we're just explaining the fact that he was a student that worked hard. He got this solid gig after his graduation, after his semester ended, and how the school reacted to it, because a lot of theater majors will work for academia.
Yeah, well, and too, like, you know, I was doing it just as like a side thing of like, you know, I finished, you know, really was I'm one of the only tech concentration students. There's like 3 or 4 other ones. And but basically, like, you know, I was doing it for like side gig and helping them and training the next group of students who are going to take these roles and stuff when we left, but now they're not getting the training. And two, like a lot of people, you know, where their resume comes from doing college shows and stuff, you know, like my resume, like, you know, half of the stuff on there is from college or stuff that I got from college, and like, you know, meeting the contacts, and like our designers are all professional Philadelphia people, and that's how I got my work at the opera, and my references for the, you know, at Walnut. But like now these students who were supposed to be in these shows are getting less on their resume, are getting less experience and less, you know, stuff that they can say when they get out of school, being like I know the lead of Anything Goes, she just transferred, I think last semester. She was cast in one of the fall shows, and then she was cast as the lead in Anything Goes, but now she is, you know, like, she has one less thing on her resume. And when, you know, people like that, who I don't know like what her goal is, if it's New York or to work in Philly or musical theater or something like that, but like you need to have an impressive resume to go straight into working outside of school, especially like the level of a performer. But they're not going to have that on their resume, or they're going to have one less thing that they can do, you know.
Do you think that and that's a very important question, I think, that I have now, is do you think that people like directors and casting people, do you think that they're going to understand that the dynamic shifted during this time, so that if students that are graduating, or if people that are performers and artists and musicians that are put on pause, like, do you think that they're going to accept like a video reel of them reading a monologue from their house?
Yeah, it's like so hard to, because I've seen casting before. I've seen it done. Like, we talked last summer. I was working at Woodstock Playhouse in New York, and I came to one of the like major audition days, like where it's called the Straw Hat auditions, and it's like 600 people auditioning and stuff like that. Which, by the way, this year was canceled because of the coronavirus. So like that was their way of getting, you know, people getting exposure to like a bunch of theaters in the area. And, you know, it's hard to say, because like I want to say people will be understanding, but also like, you know, like lack of resume and stuff like that. It's hard too, because like community theater is so different from professional theater, where it's like you can have a bunch of community theater, you know, things on your resume, but that means nothing to a professional director, where you're getting paid thousands of dollars to do the show, like at the Walnut or something like that, where, you know, I want to say they'll be understanding, because a lot of them have probably lost jobs too, you know. The casting apprentice at the Walnut lost her job, and I know she wants to be a director, and the assistant education director was directing a show at the Walnut there, and you know, it's hard to say, because, you know, we haven't gone on to the other side of this yet, of like what's going to happen. But I want to say people all around in the arts should be understanding.
Absolutely. So what do you think is the future looking like for you?
It, again, for me, like, I was already in a weird spot where, because I'm working an apprenticeship, like I had already applied to a bunch of apprenticeships like all over the country, really. And I've gotten offers for basically everywhere that I've interviewed. I've gotten the offer from them, but I've gotten to the point where I'm like, maybe I don't want to do another apprenticeship. So I've been applying to jobs and stuff. And before this happened, I applied to like, I don't know, like probably a dozen places. And it, like, right around now is when I would have been hearing back from those kind of places. And, like, when the due dates were up for, like, okay, this is, you know, apply until March 6th or whatever it was. And, you know, now I'm not hearing back from any of those places. So, for me, like, it's a weird spot where, you know, I'm looking for either an apprenticeship or a job, but I'm like, you know, all the apprenticeships are, which that's a whole nother thing if you ever want to talk about it. It's like, these people expect you to live off of $150 a week, and I'm like, no, I could get more doing like a part-time job somewhere else, you know, not in theater, and do theater on the side or something like that. So, but like, yeah. So for me, it's applying to jobs still, and it's acting as if nothing. I've been interviewing for places and stuff like that, and it's just hoping for the best. It's, you know, it's a little, like I said, it's that's why I said it's a little lost feeling. I was supposed to work at the Walnut until August, which is when I would have hopefully started the next job, but you know, and I don't know if I will ever get to go back to the Walnut and work for them, and
I'm sure that you will. I think that they've seen, you know, how much of a hard worker that you are, and I think that they'll definitely hire you back once this whole thing is settled.
Yeah.
I have high hopes for your future.
What?
I have high hopes for your future.
I do too, and it's like, you know, I'm a lot better off than some other people, where it's like I've gotten the experience of already doing an apprenticeship, and I've worked professionally in Philly of doing, you know, shows like for big companies such as Opera Philadelphia or, you know, Performing Artists Collective. So like, you know, I'm not super worried. It's more just like this was the time too, especially for a lot like myself and like seniors in college who were applying to jobs, and now those places aren't looking to hire anymore because they don't have shows going on. And a lot of the, you know, people say a lot of their budget comes from them doing other shows, but it also comes from, you know, donations from people who saw the theater. But
and
if they're not seeing theater, they're not going to donate.
Yeah, and ticket.
So it's a hard web of, you don't know what's going to happen, or, you know, it's how people react to it. I hope more people, because it's like a lot of places are requesting that they just donate the tickets, because they're not, you know, talking about like refunds right now and stuff like that. It's like theaters are being very understanding and being like, look, if you need the money, you can have it back, but they're asking people to donate, because, and which I think is really important right now, because I read the article last week where it was saying Philadelphia theater alone, within a matter of 2 weeks, lost $1.2 million.
What article is that?
It's from the Philadelphia Inquirer. I can send you a link.
Yeah, that would be great for context.
Yeah, and that, I mean, that was last week, so just think about, like, I mean, you know, my theater alone probably has lost, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars in a matter of 2 weeks of this. They canceled their shows for basically the rest of the season. We were supposed to have one other show after The Best Man opened, but that was being co-produced by a theater in Florida, which basically means they have the show, and then the show comes to us for like 2 months. So yeah, but like, because they canceled their season for the rest of the year because they couldn't afford to pay anyone, which, funny enough, I was actually supposed to work at that theater. I was offered an apprenticeship, but I turned it down because it was one of the lower paying ones. But like, they canceled the rest of their season. So we're like, we're not going to produce this show, because it wasn't supposed to open until I think June. So, you know, but now that's being canceled. So the Walnut doesn't have any of the rest of its season going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, which is like it's a source of their income.
Yeah, no, definitely. I would just like, what is something that you want to tell listeners? Like, who's someone that inspires you? Who's someone that like has been a good mentor? Like, how can we end this off on like a very positive note?
And I've been probably pretty negative with this whole thing.
No, it's fine.
A lot of, I think the thing of it is, for me right now, is staying positive. Don't let society, like, not to be dramatic, but like, don't let it die. Supporting local businesses and stuff. but like, I mean, and to answer your question, someone who's been really like inspirational to me during this time is like our production manager at the school, Josh. He was a Rutgers alumni, and he started working here recently. Once he has a kid, and he has a whole family and stuff like that. And he's been very like trying to be helpful with this whole thing. Been very like, you know, like just like kind of like a hope of, you know. So like I said, I just think it's a crazy time. It is, but I think staying positive and just keeping hopeful thoughts and just stay indoors.
Stay inside.
You know,
socially distance. Well, thank you so much, Hunter, for everything. I know that you are a plethora, you are a fountain of knowledge for everyone going in, for sure. So thank you guys so much for listening to Gigless. I will put all of Hunter's information of where you can follow him, where you can find him, and his website and his portfolio in the show notes. And thank you so much, Hunter, for this opportunity to interview you.
No, thanks, Remi. This was so nice, and it's nice to just kind of like get it out and therapeutic to, you know.
I think this is a very therapeutic podcast for a lot of people that are on it.
I hope to shine some kind of light for Philly theater at least.
Oh, I'm so happy that you did.
Good. Okay.
Well, thank you guys so much for listening, and we will be putting Hunter up soon.
Thank you for listening to the Gigless podcast, hosted by Remi Leibovic and produced by Dane Wagner. The song used in our intro and outro is Beach Walk by Unicorn Heads. If you enjoyed this podcast, head over to our social media pages on Instagram at Gigless Podcast and to our website, giglesspodcastblog.wordpress.com. There, you can find out more about the artist, contact the hosts and producers, and find out more about our schedule. Thank you.